Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the confusing world of corporate finance. And today we've got a real treat, a document that is basically a financial treasure map filled with numbers that tell a story. Before we dive in, if you like getting these unfiltered looks into how big companies operate, smash that subscribe button. And hey, if you want to chat about these filings with other finance enthusiasts, there is a Discord link in the description below. Alright, let's get straight to it. This filing is all about Inflection Acquisition Corp, IV, and Merlin Labs shedding light on some rather significant financial maneuvers happening in late 2025. So here we have Inflection Acquisition Corp, IV, and they are busy making deals. It seems like they're really trying to get a big business combination off the ground with Merlin Labs. The date here is the 17th of November 2025, and a lot of important financial agreements are being signed or amended. Think of this as a progress report on their major plans. These are the kinds of things that make the stock market tick. We see their units each consisting of one ordinary share and one right, trading under the symbol BARK on the Nasdaq. Then there are the actual ordinary shares themselves, BARKY, and the rights to get more shares, BARKY also on the Nasdaq. This tells us they are a publicly traded company. And these are the various pieces of their stock puzzle that investors can trade. Now, this is where the real action starts. It looks like back in August 2025, Inflection Acquisition Corp, IV and Merlin Labs agreed to a big merger, a business combination. As part of this, they had a deal, a securities purchase agreement with what they call a closing pipe investor. This investor was set to put in a significant amount of money, $50 million, for preferred stock and warrants. Preferred stock is like a special kind of stock that usually gets paid dividends before common stock and has other special rights. Warrants are basically options to buy more stock later. But then on the 17th of November 2025, things changed. They amended that initial deal. The same closing pipe investor decided to double their investment. That is right, they're now putting in $100 million instead of $50 million, and in return they're getting twice as much preferred stock and warrants. This is a huge signal that the investor has even more confidence in the deal going through and in the future of Merlin Labs. And it does not stop there. On the very same day, the 17th of November, they also signed additional agreements with other investors, the additional closing pipe investors. These new investors are agreeing to buy more preferred stock and warrants together. These additional investments add even more fuel to the fire for Merlin Labs as they prepare for this business combination. This tells us that the funding for this merger is really solidifying. This section clarifies that these new securities, the ones being sold to the PIPE investors, haven't gone through the full registration process with the securities regulators. They're using an exemption, which basically means they believe they're selling these to sophisticated investors who don't need all the same protections as the general public. This is pretty standard for these types of private placements. Here, they're filing a press release and an investor presentation. These are made public so that everyone, not just the big investors, gets the same information. It's to make sure the playing field is level. This investor presentation is key. It's likely where you'll find the most compelling arguments for why investors should buy into this deal. It will probably talk about the future growth, the market opportunity, and the expected synergies from merging Inflection and Merlin Labs. It's their sales pitch to the world. This part talks about some older deals, specifically convertible promissory notes and warrants that Merlin Labs had issued earlier in 2025. These are basically loans that can be converted into stock. What is interesting is that on the same day as all the new investment news, one of these note investors also decided to put more money in, buying an additional convertible note and warrant. So even existing debt holders are showing renewed confidence and increasing their stake. This is the part where they start talking about the next steps for the business combination. They mention a Form S-4, which is a filing with the SEC that basically acts as both a prospectus for new securities and a proxy statement to get shareholder approval. It is where all the details about the merger will be laid out for shareholders to vote on. This is a crucial hurdle. The shareholders of Inflection Acquisition Corp, IV, have the final say. They'll be sent all the details in that registration statement and proxy statement, and then they'll cast their votes. This is the standard SEC boilerplate telling everyone to read the important documents very carefully. It's a reminder that while this filing gives us insights, the full picture will be in those later filings. This section identifies who might be influencing the shareholder vote. It lists directors and executive officers of Inflection and Merlin Labs, and notes that their interests will be detailed in those upcoming filings. It is important to know who stands to gain or lose from this deal. And here, we get into the forward-looking statements. This is where the company talks about what they hope will happen in the future. They use words like believe, may, will, estimate, and anticipate. It is crucial to remember that these are just predictions, not guarantees. The actual results could be very different. They are legally required to tell you that these are just expectations and not promises of what will actually happen. They list a bunch of risks like economic conditions, legal issues, and whether they can actually get all the approvals they need. This is the reality check. Finally, this part is a strict legal disclaimer. It says this communication is just for information and isn't an offer to sell or buy any securities. They're being very careful here to avoid any misinterpretations of their statements as formal offers. Now, let's talk about what this all means. We're looking at a SPAC, Inflection Point Acquisition Corp IV, that is trying to merge with Merlin Labs. The big news here is the significant increase in investment from the PIPE investors. Doubling the investment to $100 million plus additional money from other investors shows a strong vote of confidence. This isn't just a small tweak. It is a substantial show of faith in Merlin Labs' future and in the viability of this business combination. The fact that they're doing all this fundraising and amending agreements on the same day, the 17th of November 2025, suggests a well-coordinated effort to finalize funding before moving to the next critical stage, shareholder approval. The original deal was for $50 million from one investor, and now it is $100 million from that same investor, along with more from others. This tells us the original plan was perhaps too small, or the confidence in the deal has grown so much that more capital is being sought to ensure success post-merger. From a Warren Buffett perspective, we're looking at the economic reality. Lots of words and filings can obscure the core truth. Is this a good deal for the long term? The increased investment is a very positive sign. It suggests that experienced investors see value in Merlin Labs and believe the merger will create a stronger entity. However, the company is still in the process of raising capital and seeking shareholder approval. The risks highlighted in the forward-looking statements are real economic downturns, regulatory hurdles, and execution challenges after the merger could all derail the plans. The key takeaway is that significant capital is flowing into this deal, which is always a good sign when you are trying to grow a business. The success of this merger will hinge on whether Inflection Point shareholders approve it and whether Merlin Labs can execute its strategic vision once combined. If they can navigate these final steps, the increased investor backing suggests a promising future. That is our breakdown of this recent filing from Inflection Point Acquisition Corp, IV and Merlin Labs. What is your take on these funding developments and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps. And subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to join the community on Discord. Link in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.